Imagine a world without a single sound. No music, no voices, no applause. Now imagine a girl who became a pianist in that world. This is a story that proves true music is born not in the ears, but in the heart. In a big city where the lights never went out at night, and during the day, people rushed as if afraid of losing their own lives, there lived a girl whom almost no one noticed. Her name was Alice. She was quiet, too quiet even for this noisy world, because she couldn't hear anything. Alice was born into a poor family on the outskirts of the city. Her mother worked as a seamstress, and she had never known her father. Their small house was barely holding together. Drafts wandered through the rooms in winter, and in summer, the roof leaked after every rain. When Alice was 3, doctors diagnosed her with complete hearing loss. Her mother cried at night, not because her daughter was different, but out of fear. How would she live in this cruel world? But Alice didn't grow up as a victim. She grew up as an observer. She saw more than others. She felt more than those who could hear. At 6 years old, something happened that changed her life. In an old club near their home stood a broken, long-forgotten piano. Its keys had yellowed, some were stuck, and the sound was dull and uneven. For everyone else, it was just junk. For Alice, it was a miracle. She couldn't hear sounds, but when her fingers touched the keys, she felt the vibration, barely noticeable, gentle, as if the instrument's heart was beating under her hands. She came there every day, sat by the piano for hours. She didn't play melodies. She explored sensations. Each key was like a separate emotion. Each vibration was like a word she had never heard, but understood. Years passed. Alice didn't go to music school. There was no money. She didn't read sheet music. No one taught her. But she played, and she played like no one else. She didn't copy music. She created it through touch, through her heart. At 17, she had to leave school. Her mother fell ill. There wasn't even enough money for medicine. So Alice got a job as a cleaner in a large, luxurious company in the city center. It was a different world. Glass walls, marble floors, expensive suits, loud conversations she couldn't hear but could see the energy of. No one there knew she could play. There, she was simply invisible. A girl with a mop. Her day started early. She washed floors, wiped dust, cleaned offices. People walked past without looking at her. Sometimes they didn't even notice her at all. But Alice didn't feel offended. She was used to it. One evening, late, when the office was already empty, she walked into the main hall. There stood a new piano. Black, glossy, perfect. She froze. This wasn't the old broken piano from her childhood. This was an instrument of another level. She looked around. No one. Slowly, she approached, ran her fingers over its surface, and pressed a key. The vibration was deeper, more alive, stronger. She sat down and began to play. Not knowing notes, not hearing sounds, but feeling every heartbeat of the instrument.
She didn't know that at that moment, someone was watching her. A man stood in the doorway, the company director. He had come back for forgotten documents, and he heard music. He stopped, because this wasn't just playing. It was something else, something that made you freeze. When Alice finished, she lifted her eyes and saw him. She got scared, jumped up, started apologizing with gestures. He stepped closer. "Who taught you?" he asked. She didn't answer. She couldn't. He understood. And for the first time, someone looked at her not as a cleaner, but as something more. A few days later, the company was preparing for a big event, the opening of a new project. Influential people, businessmen, journalists would attend, and the highlight of the evening was supposed to be a famous pianist. But something unexpected happened. She got into an accident, broke her arm. The performance was canceled. Panic. The organizers were desperate. The event couldn't be postponed. And then the director remembered. The girl. Her playing. He found Alice in the corridor, showed her the piano, and wrote on a piece of paper, "Can you play?" She looked at him, didn't believe it, shook her head. She, a cleaner. She, deaf. She, no one. But he wrote again. "I saw you play. It was incredible." Her hands trembled. Fear, doubt. But somewhere deep inside, she wanted to. The evening came. The hall was full. Lights, conversations, anticipation. No one knew what was about to happen. The announcement: instead of the famous pianist, someone else would perform. Unknown. People exchanged glances. Some smiled skeptically. Some sighed in disappointment. Alice walked onto the stage in a simple dress, slightly trembling. Silence. She sat at the piano, closed her eyes, and placed her hands on the keys. The first touch, and the world disappeared. For her, there had always been silence, but this time, that silence became music. She didn't play what she heard. She played what she felt. Her fingers moved with confidence. Her heart beat in a rhythm she couldn't hear, but could live. At first, the hall was cold. But then, something changed. People stopped moving, stopped whispering, stopped breathing. Because the music, it was alive. It was honest. It was pain, hope, fear, and love all at once. Someone in the hall began to cry. Someone didn't understand why their chest tightened. Someone felt something they hadn't felt in years. Alice didn't see it. She just played, as if it were her last chance to tell the world, "I am here." When she finished, there was silence, deep, real. And then, an explosion of applause, loud, endless. People stood up, on their feet, applauding for a long time, sincerely. Alice opened her eyes. She couldn't hear it, but she could see it, and that was enough. Tears streamed down her cheeks. That evening, everything changed. people learned her story. A girl who couldn't hear, but played better than those who had dedicated their lives to it. Her video spread around the world. She was invited to perform. She was called a miracle. But for her, nothing had changed. She still couldn't hear. She still felt. And she still played. Not for fame, not for money, but to speak to this world in a language she had created herself. Because sometimes, to hear music, you don't need ears. You need a heart.